What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast, celebrating 6 years of podcasting, the OG Sex Positive Podcast. I am your host, Stevie. This is episode 457, alongside partner in crime today, Kodi Maurice Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. How are you?
Doing good on my travel moment here, and currently in San Francisco Bay Area, but off to Puerto Vallarta when this episode drops. So more from there. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. A little bit later in this episode, Kodi and I talked to Bill Gross, who is the SAGE program manager. And he talked to us about sexual wellness for older adults. And I love that conversation that we had with Bill. It was so great.
So much fun.
So much fun. So stay tuned for that. That's coming your way. You know, we love to shout out back to listeners that write into us. And Mario G said, love the show, guys. Thank you so much, Mario G from YouTube. Pedro D. Yeah, Pedro D on Instagram. This is referring to Where You Like to Have Sex, episode 454, outside of the bedroom. And he said, well, behind a tree, the shower at the gym, or on the floor, ... Ooh.
Hey.
Floor sex. I like that too.
Behind
a tree. What kind of tree are we talking about? Better be a big older tree trunk.
You better get that wood. Yes.
Yeah, get that tree trunk. Yes, exactly. Another listener wrote in just recently, based on episode 456, best one yet. Have him back, referring to sex positive coach Craig Cullinane. And oh my gosh, really good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much.
Me too. And we definitely have to have him back. There's some funny moments. You guys I put a couple moments up on our Instagram. One of them where he's talking about shame. Really good. How we hold on to shame and how it can affect our future happiness and relationships. And then another fun one that I just posted today on our Instagram at TAGSPodcast that features you, Kodi, talking about the first time you ever climaxed at the age of 16. And we gave you a little hard time on it, but it's a fun listen, so check that out.
Oh my goodness.
Lastly, in comments comes from one of our loyal listeners, Sinfully, who wrote to us on Instagram, referring to our show on best cities that maybe have the best gay population. He would also put Puerto Vallarta, where I'm headed, on the list of cities that could be the gay capital of the world. They have a great pride. They have a great pride beef dip. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe that's a party there. The New Year's Eve white party. They have a clothing optional boat cruise. Yes, I've always wanted to try that. Blue Chairs, which I will go to. Fun. That is so much fun. Mantamar, Casa Cupola. I've stayed there. Great spot. All the strip clubs, La Noche in particular. Not to mention the LGBTQ plus friendly weather. Yep, it's number one on my list. Me too, Sinfully. That's why I'm working on moving there. Hey, are you like, get out of my head, Sinfully. And psychic. And then he goes on for another episode, a conversation we have. As far as the conversation around condom use goes, I think the whole argument for condoms is always focused on anal sex, but you can get STIs through sucking dick. There's also things you can get from eating ass. I think unless someone is putting a condom on every dick they suck, one on their tongue each time they eat an ass, and using one every time they fuck, it's kind of a moot point. I think there needs to be more focus on educating people and giving them the tools to make the best decisions for them in their sex lives. There's people in the LGBTQ plus community that like to get on their high horse and get very preachy about using condoms, and that tactic turns people off and makes them turn out. So yes, condom use is a great tool for those who are trying to minimize STIs through anal sex, but they don't combat STIs through the other forms of sex. good point there,
Very good
Cody. I
point.
think that and no, yeah, no one wants to hear preachiness either about
Oh
do this, do
no.
that.
And I hope that people don't think that we're trying to preach or talk down to anybody, but we just want everybody to be safe, just like he said, and make the best decisions for themselves. Trust me, I've had enough risky or condomless sex or what have you out there in the world for to last a
Right.
lifetime. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too. So good advice. Thanks, Sinfully, for that. You can always comment back to the show. The best way to do it is following us on Instagram, DM us at Tags Podcast. Go to our website, tagspodcast.com, and send an email via the show's website. Okay, let's get into some hot topics before we bring on our special guest. And starting out, Cody, this has really caught my attention because there's this nonprofit group that's working to help transgender people escape the US. It's
Oh
a newly
wow.
formed group. It was launched just 2 weeks ago that seeks to help transgender Americans escape the US. Nearly 3 dozen applicants have already sought assistance emigrating from the country or obtaining asylum. And this is in the wake of so many anti-LGBTQ plus laws that have been popping up, mainly, as we know, in red states nationwide. Well, many transgender people are seeking ways to leave their homes to find a better life. And this is why Transport, I like the name, Transport, hopes to step in. It helps transgender people obtain legal documents such as valid ID and passports to ultimately leave the US. I might want to apply for this. The organization plans to transport at risk transgender people abroad in more accepting societies. This is according to Vice, and there's at least 30 young. The interesting part about the story is you would think it would maybe be people of a certain age, but the
Hmm.
most of the 30 applicants have all been in their 20s, and
Wow.
many of them it's because they're not getting the right care that they need here in the States. And a lot of them are coming from certain parts of the country. Oklahoma is a big state that they have been tracking a lot of people that
Hmm.
want to emigrate. What was some of the other cities? I forget some of the other ones,
Dakota.
but Dakota was another one. They often say, people that are criticizing this, well, why not move to another city that does have access to healthcare, like New York or San Francisco? Well, the problem there is most of the cities that do provide, it's super expensive to live. So you're gonna, migrate to another city that you can't afford.
Yeah.
They do warn though that Europe, so if you're trying to seek asylum in Europe, could be challenging to Americans because the rules dictate that one must be persecuted in one's home country. So I don't know how you would go about proving that, but hopefully, just by the fact that you can't get health care for your gender would suffice.
So I
Yeah.
really am glad that transport is helping people get the help that they need by, even if it's by moving to another country, and so that they can live their most fruitful lives out there. So
Yeah, kudos to these two guys that have set this up. Let me just find their names here because it's worth shouting them out. Founders Rin Azarial Wilgos is one of the founders of it. And, he says it's about $2,000 per person for the whole process
oh
of
wow,
applying for it. Not crazy money,
that's not
but
anything crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can't be any easy feat that he's taken on, but I just applaud him, and I will post this on tagspodcast.com because I think it's important, and to continue to follow up. If you want to follow these guys or know somebody that could be in need of this, you can go to tagspodcast.com and reference episode 457.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have to move on to other hot topics. And this was a little scary, and I don't want to scare everyone, but apparently, in terms of sex positions, there is a world's most dangerous sex position out there. And that is because recently there was an Indonesian man that had to go undergo emergency surgery after fracturing his penis while performing a notoriously risky sex position, which left him with an eggplant, not my words, eggplant phallus. So I know that's scary for him. We don't mean to laugh at what he
I
had to
know,
undergo.
but it's just so that's what the emoji is. So I thought that's what everybody wanted. So, but I guess that in this
Right.
case, it's not
In
a
this
good
case,
thing.
no,
Yeah.
take that emoji away. Apparently, what happened, the freak accident occurred while the unnamed 37-year-old male was reportedly having intercourse in the reverse cowgirl position. You know that one, right? Where
Oh yeah,
person's
I've
lying
done
on
that
their
a couple
back,
times.
person's back is to them, and they're riding it in that position. This was with a woman, and but you could easily just swipe out man and it's anal intercourse.
And I love
Same
to swipe out
cowboy
a woman
position.
from it.
Me too, yes. According to TikTok doctor, Dr. Karen Raj, this is the world's most dangerous pleasure pose, responsible for a whopping 50% of fractures. Lo
Oh
and behold,
wow.
things went south after the man suddenly heard a loud cracking sound, followed by pain, discomfort, and immediately loss of erection. The patient began bleeding out of the tip of his penis and found himself unable to urinate. Surgeons were thankfully able to repair the fractured penis, and within a few minutes, the man was able to urinate and achieve an erection normally again. Okay, good news. So,
Whew, I know,
yeah,
right? I just
I
wiped
think
my
with this,
brow there.
yeah, we have an actual GIF file of somebody doing it on that we're staring at right now, and it looks super hot and sexy. But I think you know, if you want to be careful, you eager bottoms out there, you let the top lead you on this one,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Oh, I 100% agree. I don't even know if I'll be doing this position anytime soon anymore because all I can think about is fracturing my penis. I think that that is, I can't imagine what this man went through. I think that that's the most heinous pain that you can go through as far as a man is concerned, that and getting kicked in the balls. So I cannot, my heart goes out to him. I'm glad that everything is okay down there. And yeah, I don't think reverse cowgirls for me anymore. I'm gonna just do regular cowgirl from now on.
It's interesting because the guy's feet on this cowgirl, you know the difference between like this position called cowgirl, where
Hmm.
the guy's feet are on the bed and then he's riding it.
Yeah.
You've seen those other films like Tim Tales, where he likes to put his bottom same position, but his feet are actual the bottom's feet are actually on the quads. Do you think that
Oh
makes a difference?
yes.
And would that be safer? Do you
I
think?
I think that's more dangerous. What if his feet fall off of the
Oh
quads and
my
then he
god!
slips and then yeah, I'm not into this type of acrobatic sex right now. I'm not trying to do all these flips and dips and twists and turns.
Shablams and all.
I just shablams
Do not
into
shablam
the
on your
hole.
partner's penis. Yeah.
Oh my
Not
gosh.
recommended.
Yes, we're making light, but
Or
yeah,
death drop.
this is
Yeah, do
very
not death drop
serious.
on your partner's penis anytime soon. I know it makes me like, let's just go back to basic white, vanilla sex. I say this today on this episode, but I could be
But
just be
tomorrow.
careful. I know, right? Sounds a little fluke accident, but according to that Dr. Raj, it's not. I mean, if it occurs more often than we think, and
Yeah,
you got to
50% of
protect that.
fractures? That's
I
too
know.
much.
That's way too much. A number
I'm
we do
like,
not are not happy to report on. Oh my
right? I'm
god.
scratching
Okay,
this
just
off of my repertoire.
yeah, I'm just gonna. I think if you know the person and you kind of have that conversation before, don't do
Mhm.
it maybe with an initial hookup. Maybe like I feel like you and Joe could do it because you now know each other inside and out, literally. And
After
I feel like,
practice, we have to practice,
yeah, just
like
do some
Cirque du Soleil.
practice. Cirque du Soleil. All right. Well, we love giving some advice, and I think we have time to do that really quickly here. Coming from our other longtime listener, Bryce. Bryce wrote into us, "Hi, my lovelies. I would love to hear your thoughts and or advice." Okay, here it goes. I know Tags is a gay-friendly podcast, but would you consider the podcast to cater primarily to men that solely want sex, or a balance between wanting deep connection and genuine love? So it's kind of a long one. So why don't we answer that question first?
Okay.
I mean, I can start with that just initially because when I started the show, obviously it's called Talk About Gay Sex, and that was all the initial conversations that Jeremy Ross Lopez and I had sitting on my living room floor after a night of drinking, talking about our sexcapades. But we initially knew that it was going to morph into something a little bit more serious about our gay health, as it did early on in the season.
Hmm.
And then conversations about relationships, dating, things that relate to our community at large. Like we just did that initial story on transgender and the nonprofit group helping them out
Hmm.
relocate. And
Yeah.
so I think you guys already know the answer to that, that yes, we love to talk about sex.
Oh,
We do it
yeah.
all the time, but we are so much more than that. And our lives, our LGBTQ plus lives, intersect our sexual lives all the time. Sometimes taking our rights away, some that can affect that, and so on and so forth. We do travel cities, which is fun, but we like to have sex in the places that we travel to. And so it's all intersected. So, you're barking up the right tree here, Bryce.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think that because we have so many different types of gay men on the show, myself, Lincoln, you, Jeremy,
Sometimes
we're
Teddy,
sometimes
Alexis.
Teddy, we're all so different and so varied, and we're all looking like sex and love are so intertwined. For me, it's hard to kind of take that out of the equation. I know for some other people that that's not the case, but that's just the case for me. So from my perspective, this show has been always been about sex and love, and yeah, we're that's what we're speaking on, our personal experiences.
Well, Bryce goes on to say, I'm at wit's end dealing with men that only want me for my big ass on my short body. While I am flattered like clockwork, as soon as men find out that I am a sapiosexual, and you know what? I didn't know what that actually was, but I looked it up before I did the show, and it's somebody that's into the brain.
Oh, thank you
You're
for
more
that.
into, yeah, you're more into someone's brain than you are into, say, maybe the physicalities. And this would be Bryce, who's a
Hmm.
sapiosexual. So I find out that I'm a sapiosexual. Their interest in me is immediately tossed into the receptacle. This feels like a dagger in my chest because, on the off chance that a man is actually attracted to my black body, where's the lie, he writes, I then am marked with another strike of wanting a meaningful relationship. I'm nearly 34. I am openly gay, volunteer for LGBTQ plus IA plus businesses, and even started my own therapy group for queer persons of color. Kudos to you,
I
Bryce.
know, that's so amazing.
I have yet to experience a lasting relationship and I'm exhausted. And I am tired of men judging me because I complain about dating difficulties. Oh, honey, welcome to our show. This is what we do all the time. However, their proclivities lean towards white men. Actions speak louder than words, and even Thirst Trap Wednesday shows a majority of fair skinned men.
Ooh.
I've resorted to having more cats and reading romance novels because I am legitimately sick to my stomach from men consciously and unconsciously dismissing my gay worth. And before the guys listening, bitch, sometimes other black and brown men, Asian men too, exclude black men for more than white men do.
Hmm.
Guys, I love you, and it seems like bullshit washes off your backs. Do you recommend that I take a course in not giving a fuck? Love you all. Love you, tears and all, Bryce. Aw. Well, that's a deep one,
I
and I
know,
appreciate
right?
you, Bryce, writing in for that. You know, I would say take a breath because you're doing so many great things. I think with your
Yeah.
life, and oftentimes a lot of our advice is when people aren't they're frustrated with meeting people on the apps, or they're frustrated with people meeting only one type of guy or only guys that want sex on the apps. Many of our recommendations are join a group. Not even you did more than that. You started a group, so we can't fault you there. You are, in my mind, you're doing all the right things. I do not want to diminish your age. Because I know you feel the way you feel. I
Mhm.
think that you're young still. I mean, 34 is a great age. Wouldn't you agree, Cody?
Oh, yeah, I was having a lot of fun when I was 34.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think stay true to how you feel, and these are true feelings. And so I do believe there is somebody out there for everyone.
Yeah.
What would you say to Bryce, though, about the racial proclivities he's seeing against him as a black man?
I mean, I've been there and I know some things about being sexualized just because of my ethnicity and people having a lack of interest due to my ethnicity. And I know how that feels and it sucks. And it doesn't seem fair at the end of the day that white beauty standards are upheld so much. But the sooner that you kind of accept it, the better off you'll be, I feel like, because it's not fair and it's not correct. And there are all types of beauty in all types of colors. And people out there in the world, you can find beauty in every single color on the rainbow. But the sooner that you kind of get in your mind frame that that's not the way that the world works. And I know that this it sounds really harsh and horrible that that and I'm kind of getting choked up a little bit, but the sooner that you can kind of accept that, then I think the better off your life will be. And the more that you learn how to recognize the red flags out there as far as people who only want you for one thing or who do not have the right mindset as far as race is concerned and dating you, then I think again the better off that you will be, because those red flags will keep you from a lot of danger and a lot of people out there that are just trying to use you.
It's so interesting that you said the sooner you kind of digest the realities of racism or people um, fawning over you because of your ethnicity.
Yeah.
I heard something recently. A woman was talking on one of my news shows, really relating to the same things of yes, the fight for racism and equality is an ongoing fight. You can have markers, but you always know that it's there underlying. And the
Yeah.
sooner you digest that and move forward with that knowledge, the sooner you can heal internally and know that that's just a part of life. Where how am I going to, like you said, see red flags? How am I going to find those that don't fall into that category of sexualizing me only?
Yeah.
Find other people that maybe what was the word that he used that he describes himself, the sapiosexual?
Sapiosexuals. Yeah.
Put that out there in the universe and also in your maybe groups, what you're looking for.
Hmm.
And like-minded people will find like-minded people. I truly believe
Exactly.
that. It's going to be a little bit more of a diamond in a rough type of situation, but you will find that and you'll start to weed out, like you said, find those red flags and keep honing in on. I don't think you should ever dumb yourself down,
Oh, for sure.
and I commend you also for putting this out there because a lot of people don't like to talk about race, even in our community sometimes, and they don't acknowledge it. And I appreciate you talking about that,
Hmm.
you, Cody, as well as Bryce,
Oh, thank you.
on the show too, because I think there is a lack sometimes of not wanting to go there. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, and yeah, 100. Yeah, for sure. Because people are afraid to talk about these things. Because if you kind of ignore it, then they think it'll go away. But it's not going to go away. It's always here. It is ever present in the general consensus of society's mind. So the more that we acknowledge it and the more that we take stock of it, the better off we'll be as a people. But I just kind of want to say also, for me, finding Joe, when it finally did happen, it kind of took me by surprise because I was so used and it was so ingrained in me that people were going to be dicks,
Right.
basically. So when it finally did happen, it took me by surprise, and it really it was such a pleasure, but I didn't know how to handle it at first. And trust me, Joe is not perfect. Let's just say he had
No, of course not.
yeah, but he's willing to learn, and even though he hasn't seen Boomerang and set it off, we still there's still so much that he's
Teaching
willing to
moments to come.
hello, and
Yeah.
he's willing to learn, and he's willing to he defends me at every turn. So that is
I
what you
love
I feel like
that.
you should look for in a partner.
Yeah, and I think continuing, don't worry about complaining because that's you got to get all this stuff off your chest. I think the advice also I would say is to once you release it and continuously release it out into the universe, then it's time to start asking the universe for what you really want and putting that out there. So you get it off of out of your system and you start turning it into making conscious time throughout your weeks to ask for what you do want and what you want to bring into your universe and your life really
Mm,
does make a change. I believe that all the time. When things are not going my way, I always ask the universe,
come
and
on.
yeah, so I hope
Get
that helps.
transcendental with it. I love it.
Yes. And Bryce, this is a longer conversation that we would love to continue to have with you. So maybe we'll have you on and dive a little bit deeper. But we thank you for that. And good, keep us posted. You know, you
Yes,
can
please
always
do.
ask us for solicited or even unsolicited sex or relationship advice. We are here for you. Simply DM us at Tags Podcast or go to our website, tagspodcast.com, and email us via the website. Well, thanks, Cody. It's
Thank
time
you,
for our
babe.
conversation with our special guest, Bill Gross, who's going to be talking about sexual wellness for older adults. Let's take
So
a
much fun.
break. And when we come back, our conversation with Bill Gross. Hey guys, I was just at the adult bookstore down the street getting my monthly supply of lube and saw those erection pills they sell. You know, the ones that usually are at the front of the store. Maybe they're at the counter before you check out. Have you ever wondered what the heck is in those things and are they even safe? And we all know there's a plethora of products out there to keep you hard and ready, but are they safe? Many of them raise your heart rate and your blood pressure. And when drinking is involved, when we go out, we may not be consuming the best pills to do the job of keeping us hard and ready for a night of fun. Joy Mode is here to save the day like a superhero we all needed. Whether you think you need help or not in the bedroom, Joy Mode is like a pre-workout but for sex. Joy Mode makes natural and science-backed sexual wellness products for men. The Sexual Performance Booster is designed to support erection quality and firmness and sex drive. It contains clinically supported doses of arginine nitrate, L-citrulline, Panax ginseng, and vitamin C. It was created with best-in-class scientists and biochemistry PhDs. After taking the Sexual Performance Booster, blood levels of arginine nitrate will increase, which will directly promote nitric oxide production, penile tissue relaxation, and increased drive. Meanwhile, the antioxidant action of vitamin C will protect nitric oxide from oxidative degradation, which enhances the blood flow promoting activity of nitric oxide. Collectively, these effects enhance sex drive and blood flow to the penis, resulting in better performance. Joy Mode was created because the products on the market are terrible and they knew they could do better. Prescriptions come with all sorts of side effects and the over-the-counter gas station pills are sketchy and fraudulent, but a lot of guys take both because they don't have a better option. Simply tear open the sachet and mix with 6 to 8 ounces of water, just like your favorite electrolyte packet. For best use, consume anywhere from 45 minutes to 4 hours prior to sexual activity. You'll notice better blood flow, better erection quality and firmness, and increased sexual energy and drive. So you want to spice things up in the bedroom and boost your sexual performance and do it naturally without prescription drugs? We have a special offer for the Tags audience. Go to usejoymode.com/tags or enter TAGS, TAGS at checkout for 20% off your first order. That's usejoymode.com/tags for 20% off your first order. Thanks, Joy Mode. We are joined today by Bill Gross, the SAGE program manager. Let me just read a little bit about what SAGE is because I had it here. For 40 plus years, SAGE has worked tirelessly on behalf of the LGBTQ plus older people, building off the momentum of the Stonewall Uprising and the emerging LGBTQ plus civil rights movement. A group of activists came together to ensure that LGBTQ plus older people could age with respect and dignity. SAGE formed a network of support for LGBTQ plus elders that's still growing and growing today. SAGE, it's more than just an organization. It's a movement of loving, caring activists dedicated to providing advocacy, services, and support to older members of the LGBTQ plus community. Bill, welcome to Of a Certain Age. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. Now, you're the program manager over at SAGE. First of all, how did you get involved with SAGE, and what do you do there?
Yeah. I came to SAGE about 8.5 years ago. I started out running our Friendly Visitor Program, which is a program that matches a volunteer with one of our clients, someone who is LGBTQ and over age 60. And those volunteers go to their house once a week for social, practical, emotional support. So I ran that program for a while. Then I also took on running our HIV program called Sage Positive, which is for people living with or potentially impacted by HIV who are older adults. And now I'm actually the director of special programs. So I oversee a whole bunch of different kinds of programs, both here in New York City and also a couple that are down in South Florida.
Let's talk about sexual wellness. But
Yeah.
before we get into sexual wellness, and I know, Bill, you wanted to talk a lot about that, is you participated in an article recently, and the article was entitled What It's Like to Date After Middle Age. And I was reading it. I think it was written in 2020. And you said for older LGBTQ plus adults, the spaces that used to serve the gay community as meeting places for potential partners, such as gay bars, now don't always feel welcoming to older adults. And in fact, many gay bars have become something else entirely, more of a general social space, as younger gay people have turned to Grindr and other apps for hookups and dates. And it was a great article because the writer in general was talking about what it's like at a certain age to enter the dating scene. Mm-hmm. And if you are divorced and you're a baby boomer, because so many baby boomers, the divorce rate isn't what their parents' rate of marriage look like. And so how do you enter that? Can you just talk a little bit about what it's like to date after middle age? Not yourself, but what you've noticed.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, the clarification.
We're all getting there.
Yeah, we're all getting there. Right? Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, for sure. From what I've heard from many of our participants, it's, as you just said, that the bars no longer feel welcoming to them. That at one point it was really a way to connect with other people, to connect with friends, but now they're looked on as the old guy over there.
No one wants to feel like the old.
No one wants
the old person. No.
No, and no one wants to feel not welcome or
Right.
not attractive,
Right.
or like you're kind of this interloper, or there's lots of ageism, there's lots of homophobia when it comes to looking at older adults as kind of either pitiful or kind of pervert, kind of there with younger people, like what is he, and so the bars are challenging for a lot of our participants, and some of our participants have tried online dating, and I know that some have had success with that. But what I used at one point I was running a sex and dating work for people living with HIV at SAGE. And one of the things that we really explored was what it would be like to do more communal activities that you feel excited about, in the hopes that you'll meet someone who also enjoys that as well. So for instance, I know one of my participants just started recently going on these gay walking tours here in Chelsea that go to the gallery, the various galleries.
Oh, I know that group. I've done it once before.
Yeah, me too.
They're open
Do
to
you
everybody.
enjoy it?
But
Totally, totally, they're open to everyone.
To go.
Yeah, they're open to everybody. I forget the man's name, but we'll shout out to him. And later.
They're super fun. Actually, I think there's more than one.
Okay.
Someone got the word that
Yeah,
it's
I'm
lucrative,
sure.
and I think.
Well, you know
another
what? That's good, though.
That's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something like that. So that's the way he's approaching, is that he loves art, And so he goes to this once a week and joins these walking tours that go to these different galleries. And then usually they go to, the group of them go to dinner afterwards.
Oh, nice.
In the hope that maybe there'll be a match with someone.
Yeah.
But, so I think it's just putting yourself out there. And if you specifically can do it doing an activity that you enjoy, that's always more fun. I mean, that's what I found dating myself. So,
Yeah,
I think it's true for any
me
age, right?
too.
Yeah.
And I mean, Cody lucked out and found his partner
Got a whole
on
boyfriend
Grindr.
now. I know, right?
But
of all places.
I'm gonna be doing these walking tours as I
wanna go with you.
because I don't do well on the apps and it's not my thing.
Yeah.
I do well going out and about, and there might be a time when I don't want to go to the bars as much anymore.
Yeah.
I'll go to the Monster, but
Sure.
but
and
yeah,
the eagle.
right. You work a lot. Right, the Eagle, maybe. Yeah. You talk a lot, and some of your work is with elder people and HIV and
Yeah.
STIs.
Uh-huh.
And what's some of the things that people may or may not be looking out for? Maybe they're not getting the education, or maybe they already have HIV.
Yeah.
And they're of a certain age.
It's interesting. I spent a lot of my early years, around age 20, I started volunteering as an HIV counselor. So I do pre and post test counseling. And basically, and then I was doing that professionally and spending all my time talking to people about the sex they were having. And I loved that work so much because I think it can be so freeing, especially for our communities that don't necessarily don't go through the same kind of adolescence that the straight people do in terms of being able to talk about sex, kind of in that way with our peers, like at age 16, 17. And so many of us went through this kind of solitary, kind of secret experience.
Oh, yeah.
When we were in our teens. I mean, I'm older than the two of you. So growing up in the...
Debatable.
I promise you. I'll bring out my driver's license.
We can compare. We'll have you whip it out later.
But in terms of those messages of HIV prevention and STI prevention, what I found, kind of given my background, is that it's best received at any age when you can approach it from the topic of sexual wellness. So that's kind of not wagging your finger at someone saying, oh no, when you have sex, you have to do this, you can't do this, you have to wear this, you have to, it's
Especially
more,
if you are of a certain age. Do you
God,
want
can you imagine
No,
being
I
talked
couldn't.
down to?
being
Yeah.
80 years old and having, someone saying, don't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact is that, of course, those generations have heard that message a lot of what they can and can't do sexually, sometimes in well-meaning ways of like, these are ways to protect yourself. And sometimes in deeply invalidating ways of like, oh, you're bad because you have this kind of sex. So anyway, I think the best way to approach those kind of messages is through sexual wellness. And it's more about talking about what's working for you. And so a lot of the workshops I lead at Sage on sexual wellness are about what sex and intimacy are like as we age.
Yes.
Right? And when someone hits whatever age it is, but let's say if someone is 70 years old, like what is sex like for you now? And how is that different than it was at age 40, at age 20? Right? And what is better? And what would you like to change? And what is working and what is not? And it starts to kind of foster this healthy dialogue about, and this validating, hopefully, dialogue about what we like and what we don't. And if there are things that we don't like about sex as we age, because we know that there are physical functions that change for us as we age.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, the vaginal walls get thinner and there's less lubrication. So sex can be painful for the,
Yeah.
sometimes there can be erection difficulties or it's trouble maintaining an erection or, there are sometimes these things. And I think it's, number one, important to validate that can have an impact on people.
Right.
But then also find ways around that. And, for older adults, if someone has arthritis and some sexual positions are painful, then what are other ways to go about it? You know? And
It's breaking down those walls and saying that it's okay to talk about this stuff like we
sure.
do on our other show all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. But what if, you were new to coming out? I mean, you were going to
Yeah, I was
go
going to ask
down.
a question, but before I ask that, I was going to say that as you age, those challenges happen, but the sexual desire does not go away. So how do you handle those challenges with, as far as like the body and things of that nature, with the desire not really going anywhere?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I think part of this kind of sexual wellness programming, which, by the way, I mean, we started talking about HIV, but it's for all of our SAGE participants, whether
Right.
they're HIV positive, HIV negative, if they don't know their status. The primary reason for doing this programming is to create validating conversations,
Yeah.
sex positive conversations, where I think the first step, in answer to your question, is being able to connect with other people about what is going on with you, about what is going on with your body, and maybe taking a little bit of the shame and the ageism.
Yeah.
Because our bodies change, from age 0 to 100 each year. I think it's more about the layers of shame that we put on ourselves when it comes to ageism. So if we are told by society that we are of less value as we age,
Right.
and we are less beautiful as we age, then of course these bodily changes that naturally happen are going to take on a different and heightened significance.
Just
of
become
like,
heavier.
Here it
and-
goes. Yeah,
Right.
here it goes. I couldn't get it up for as long. This means I'm no longer desirable.
And
Yeah.
that sets
And
you
that's not
back.
true.
And that feeds
Yeah.
it's a
Exactly.
cycle.
Right.
Totally. Yeah.
Vicious cycle. And I've been there. Well, going back to aging and coming out as when you're a little bit older, does Sage handle things of that nature? What can you tell me about how that is a struggle for people coming out in a later age?
Absolutely. I have had clients who lived, male clients who were married to a woman for most of their life, who have grown children, and who just in the past 5 years have come to terms with the fact that they're also attracted to men as well, or perhaps exclusively to men now. Also, I've had trans clients who are only now at age, say, 85, considering, oh my gosh, transitioning. And what is that like? And well, what if I did start hormone therapy at age 85? And let me talk to my doctor about that.
I love
So
it.
when you talk about coming out, it's both sexual orientation, but also gender identity of these different experiences. And hopefully our goal is at Sage to provide kind of a welcoming home for people at whatever stage they are in their process, to feel like they can connect with others and be validated in where they are right now.
That's so beautiful.
Right.
I love that.
Me too. We talk a lot about how our bodies change. You were talking about things are different as we get older. What have you heard from maybe the handicap community, and what's their outlook on, can they still be sexual? I know many of them want to be sexual, but maybe some people, there's a lot of prejudices towards people in a wheelchair, but they want to be sexual too, is what I would think.
Absolutely. And you've done such great homework. It's such a great question because, whatever stage someone is in kind of assisted devices that they need to use,
Sure.
whether it's just a cane or whether it's a wheelchair or et cetera, there's often a lot of stigma that they and others associate it with that, right? And certainly, we have participants who are recently completely visually impaired, and what is that like to date when suddenly, after being sighted for most of your life, you're not able to see? I think there are practical solutions, right? So if someone is in a wheelchair or has some kind of chronic pain in areas of their body, there are ways to have a healthy and super enjoyable sex life that just require some adjustments, some physical adjustments, say. But then it also has to do with this feeling of, gosh, if I'm in a wheelchair, is anyone going to want me?
Right.
And I can tell you from personal experience with our participants that yes, I mean, we have participants in wheelchairs who have a very happy and healthy sex life with sometimes with multiple people. And,
at a time?
Well, I'm not going to go into that.
Okay, you're
Can't
right.
go into all the details.
I'm getting a little bit too personal. Sorry, that's my job.
I love that.
But I do think one thing that really requires is an amazing sense of being able to connect to other people and receive support, because that's a tall order sometimes to have the amount of self-confidence to say, no, I'm still hot.
Right.
Come and get it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm still here, and
Yeah.
I'm still a sexual being.
For sure.
Life has just changed a little bit for me. I'm maybe in this chair now, or I may be with that cane, but you're still a sexual being.
Yes.
And I think it comes down to communication, too, and talking with people so that you don't retreat inwardly and wallow and feel sorry for yourself.
Oh, yeah. I've been there before, too. So I understand wholeheartedly how you can go down this vicious cycle, down this rabbit hole of feeling like you're not worthy. So it's so good that you guys are doing the great work out there that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wanted to also tap into, because on our other show, TAGSPodcast, we talk a lot about, and we're very comfortable about it now, getting checked for STIs. And again, it's not wagging your finger at somebody. I think at first, we've seen our show over 6 years grow. And at first, PrEP, I was somebody that didn't want to get on PrEP, and I was a little latecomer to it. But now it's so integrated into our show. But what if somebody is coming out, and without wagging their finger, but making them aware that it's wonderful to be sexually active, but you also, depending on the sex you are happening, can, probably want to get checked for this, or maybe get on PrEP, and maybe you are 70 years old, and that's perfect time to get on it too.
For sure. And just because we're approaching this topic from a lens of sexual wellness doesn't mean that you also don't give them the same kind of safer sex information that you would give to anyone, right? So you want to make sure that the people you're working with have correct information. And it was amazing to me coming to Sage. I think that, as I said, I had a lot of history of talking about sex with people, right? Yeah. But there was a bit of shyness coming to Sage because I didn't so much have these conversations with older adults before. And the shyness wasn't in talking about sex with older adults. It was about like, well, come on, surely they know everything there is to know about safer sex. Like, who am I to think I can give them more information?
Right, yeah.
But the amazing thing is that older adults, just like middle-aged adults, just like younger adults, have misconceptions about what safer sex is. And that is still super important to go over the actual facts of it. And then when you come to something like PrEP or PEP or U equals U, these are completely new concepts to
they
these
could have been in a
populations.
relationship for half their life and didn't have a need to talk about these things.
And things are ever changing and ever evolving.
Well, right.
So.
Absolutely. Or there may be people who were in multiple relationships throughout their life, but they perhaps are very strict condom users. And then to hear about PrEP, they might have feelings about that. Well, wait, what does that mean? Does that mean I don't have to use a condom? I use a condom and I take the medication? What is that? So there are a lot of conversations to be had with older adults. And the sad thing is, they're not really happening in the doctor's office. We find that many doctors, and I think it's because of their own ageism.
Yeah.
Just don't feel they don't feel comfortable having these conversations with their older adult clients when they should be, because some of our participants are having lots of sex.
Yeah.
It'd be great to have these conversations,
If we left it up to the doctors, everybody I talk to has such a narrow conversation with their doctor, their general practitioner, and they, like you said, they box you into this one category of what they think. 9 times out of 10, they're heterosexual, so they're coming from that lens, and it's just no. So we need these other resources.
Yeah. What do you feel like the disconnect is between talking to older people about their sex lives and things of that nature? What do you feel like is the disconnect? The what's the word that I'm looking for?
Just like missing element, maybe that younger people are having, I guess.
I mean, from doctors, the missing element,
Yes,
why
the
they're not talking
doctors,
about,
or even somebody like me that I can't talk to my mom about sex. Are you kidding me?
well, I think you hit on it. I think
Yeah.
it is that
I'm not talking to my mom about sex
it's
either.
a bit mommy daddy issues of
Yeah.
like,
Oh.
I don't want, well, no, not that kind of.
Oh, I got hot for a second.
No, of like, I mean, personally, I think it's kind of normal not to feel completely comfortable talking to your parents about sex.
Thank you.
Right? I don't think.
Right.
I don't think that's abnormal, but I think that does then sometimes transfer for how we talk to people our parents' age or our grandparents' age about sex, and there is that kind of
Association.
level of discomfort at first. Although I will tell you, once you start talking to an older adult, by the way, who's interested in talking, we don't want to just make them talk about sex.
Correct.
But once you start
Consent is
talking
key.
and you realize that they're really interested in kind of talking about their experience, not in a kind of sexualized way, but in a normalized way of like, yeah, this is what sex is like for me.
Yeah.
That it's super actually comfortable for the person who's the provider, who's doing the talking, and that it can feel really rewarding and exciting to talk to someone, especially because we know that these conversations aren't happening all that often with older adults.
Wow.
I'm just curious have you seen in the last several years with the onslaught of things like Silver Daddy's app or people using the term daddy, like we were just joking around with, have you seen a positive shift in how we look at our older generations from things like the term daddy and all these apps that are dedicated towards a certain community of a certain age?
I think perhaps I've been working at Sage for 8 years, so it's kind of during it was I think a little before that time that term kind of daddy and everything was started really being
Implemented.
sexualized and used.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful that older adults are seen as sexual beings and desirable beings in that way, and definitely there are a bunch of our participants, a bunch of our clients who are having kind of generational relationships, sexual relationships with someone much younger than them that are and romantic relationships
Right.
that are much younger than both or either of those things. So yeah, I think that can only be a good thing to have that kind of opening of the sexualization of an older adult.
Yeah, I mean, the science is here. We can live longer. We have things we can take to have longer erections.
Yeah.
There's wellness programs like Sage. So it's an exciting time, I think, to grow older. And we're really excited about Sage and its longevity. And we'll continue to need it. Did you have any other
I
follow-up?
don't think I had anything else, but yes, this is beautiful. It's been
Yeah.
a lovely conversation.
Well, we want to thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much.
How can we follow Sage? And then how do we follow you?
Yes, for sure. The national website for Sage is sageusa.org. So SAGEUSA.org. And from there, you can navigate to all sorts of, you can navigate to our Florida programs, you can navigate to New York City programs, or those national programs. And you can also find staff in there, and I'm listed in there. People can feel free to email me and ask me any questions.
Bill Gross.
Fabulous.
Got it.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Bill.
much.
Yeah, my
that was
pleasure.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Nice.
thanks.